because they sit in a meeting and they get outnumbered and overwhelmed and intimidated by complex jargon. Okay, welcome back to ID Comms Media Snack. Hello from New York.
Greetings from London.
So mate, we are continuing our campaign to simplify media.
Yes.
If you've seen the last two episodes, you'll know that we've been talking about just the overwhelming complexity that we think that the media industry has got itself into, which is creating real headaches now for marketers.
Yeah.
And we really want to look at simplifying media. That's really our kind of ambition here.
Yeah.
On the back of a recent episode, we got a good question. We get sometimes some good questions from our viewers, so thank you for those. Because we'd said something which we got pulled up on, and we wanted to kind of go and address that. And what we had said was that media should be a marketing discipline. And the question was, like, what does that mean? Which is fair enough. So we thought we'd just take a moment just to explain what we mean. So what is going on? What do we mean by media should be a marketing discipline?
Now this is a really important topic. So at a time when I think we all believe that media is seen as one of the largest levers an organisation has to drive a business outcome. And in many cases, media is very high on the corporate agenda. And what we mean by that is that the attention of very senior management on media and how it is invested is a massive focus, because there's huge risks to that, not only because of the amount of money that is often invested by companies, but also because of all of the challenges that media's had recently with supply chain and ad fraud and viewability issues. So the focus of organizations is massively on media. And these should be creating a really positive environment for marketeers to use that media investment in the most positive way. The challenge that we've got is that we can't shake off the negativity of the last 10 years. So as media has been overly commoditized over the last 10 years, the language, the narrative around media remains around discounts, savings, rebates, e-auctions. The commoditization and the financial kind of execution of media has diminished its role, we think, within kind of a marketeer's toolkit.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we've actually tested this. So for those of you that know, we run this we've been running this multi-year research study called the Global Media Reports. And we look at different themes every 3 months on a kind of rotating basis. And one of those is called the Global Media Thinking Report. So it's just really about it's about planning and strategy and media's role in that. One of the questions that we always ask is, and we ask this to marketers around the world, and one of the questions is, do you see media as a complex headache, or do you see media as an exciting opportunity? And they kind of have a scale, and they get to pick like where they think they sit on that scale. And recently that has been deteriorating into complexity. So in the most recent study, marketers and media specialists generally think of media as a complex headache, which is a real concern. Yeah. Interestingly, their procurement colleagues actually are at the other end of the scale. So procurement colleagues tend to see media as an exciting opportunity, which is incredibly encouraging.
Yeah.
But very worrying for the marketers to be and these are the people that are focused perhaps in a bit more attention to media, see it as a complex headache, which I think tells you everything you need to know about where we are and what we need to do.
So Tom, what are the implications?
Well, the implications are quite dire if we don't change something. So my view is that media has just become a bit boring and a bit complicated for most people. And I say that as a 20 plus year veteran of the media industry around the world, with my own media company, which you and I founded. So we're very passionate about media. But I think for a lot of marketers, it's just boring. It's got complicated, and so they've kind of switched off. Now there are on the advertiser side, of course, there are media specialists who share the same kind of passion that we do, and they love doing what they do. But generally, marketers, within most advertisers, media is just complicated and a bit boring in the ways that you've described. It's become a very complex financial optimization exercise. It appeals to the needs of the business when it comes to saving money and finding discount and showing, quant statistics on effectiveness, or efficiency, I should say. But it doesn't exist as a marketing discipline. That's the problem. And the marketers that we have got to know over many, many years feel either overwhelmed by that complexity, or I think in worst cases, just quite intimidated by it. Exactly. And I think that's bad when a marketer is reluctant to challenge their agency or reluctant to challenge their publishers or vendors or any kind of partners, because they sit in a meeting and they get outnumbered and overwhelmed and intimidated by complex jargon. And they get made to feel like they might be making the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are accountable, okay? Everyone else in the supply chain just has to touch the money and maybe add some value to it. The marketer's got to sign the check. And when they're made to feel intimidated by complexity, it makes them hesitate, and it takes away their confidence in the right decision making. And I think that's a terrible position to be in. And as an industry, we've got to be supporting the marketer with far greater simplicity.
Agree.
To allow them to make better decisions. Okay, and this was I've shared this example with you recently, but this was pulled into very sharp focus for me in the last few weeks. I was sat in a meeting in New York with a CMO of a large global CPG business, and we were talking about what they could do for media in the future, and he leaned over to me and he said, "Tell me about comms planning." And honestly, nobody's asked me that for like 2 years, and it made me really think, wow, I mean, all the language that we talk about, right? Yeah. And we're probably considered relatively strategic when we come to media as a business, but it's all about the buying. I mean, 90% of the conversation is about the buying. We use all the information that we can to optimize the buying, and to have CMOs passionate about channel thinking again, I think is brilliant. So I left that meeting thinking, God, yeah, we need to start thinking again about the value of planning and creativity in media. It's got to be something that we bring back to marketers and we, as an industry, and make them excited about it. Right then, so what should the marketers do?
Well, they need to change the narrative, but they need to do it in two ways. The first is change the narrative internally. Celebrate brilliant media. Change the language around media from being around cost and price and discounts to one of creative ideas and value and the craft of media in its ability to drive a business outcome. That's about celebrating media brilliance, but on the platform of value. That's the internal job. And the external narrative has to be around simplification. Tell your agency partners not to bombard you with complexity and overwhelm you with confusion. It's about challenging them to simplify the matter, simplify the recommendation, simplify the marketplace to enable marketeers to make more considered, decent, and stronger strategic decisions. So internally it's about celebration, externally it's about simplification.
Yeah, that's it. So that's our rallying cry again going into next year. I mean, we encourage marketers, please don't feel intimidated by media. That was just what a desperate state that would be in if the industry continues to kind of make marketers feel uncomfortable about media. There are no silly questions. Sit in meetings. If you feel intimidated, ask the question. Yeah. Get the agency to explain, or get your vendor to explain things in layman's terms. Right? We're not accustomed to quoting Albert Einstein on Media Snack. We're quite a way off that. But he famously said, genius can simplify the complexity, right? And the flip side of that is that, dumb complicates things unnecessarily, right? People hide behind complexity. So we need to rip that off, and it comes down to you, the marketers. You've got to call it out when you see it, please. So we've referenced the global media reports. Click down below. You can access all of those reports, and you can get to see in real numbers how depressing and overwhelmed marketers feel about the complexity of media. That's it for this week. Please subscribe to be updated on future episodes, but thank you very much for watching.
See you next time.